And with that, we are joined by Tony is in here. I'm told I got to get new intros to everybody. So no longer the richest man y'all will never meet. But how we doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. We'll figure that out next episode, y'all. Stay tuned.
Amen. Um, so I want to ask you this first before we get into obviously how you feel about the Ravens playoffs. So I started the show
Um,
off.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, so I started the show off today, and I said, and some of this is internet, and some of this is just the unraveling of humanity, unfortunately. But I feel like we've lost the joy in upsets. Growing up, it used to be the teams that made these huge upsets were celebrated. Where I feel now the way sports media and sports culture is it's almost like, oh, you better not lose. Like we want to shame the loser more than we want to uplift some of these winners. Like growing up, the 69 Mets, that was this, Cinderella-esque story. If you want to go to, one of your favorite teams is unfortunately like the 2012 Ravens. It was like that was a team that wasn't expected to win at all, but does. And they celebrate the story. It's we don't sit there and, dwell on the losers in that situation.
hmm
So I ask, have we ruined the idea of a good upset? Like if Green Bay goes in there with Jordan Love and beats Philadelphia if Jalen Hurts is healthy, to me that should be a celebration of Jordan Love and the Packers, not just some downfall of Philadelphia. But I know how the internet's going to take that is we're going to get Jalen Hurts memes and all this stuff. Have we ruined the joy of a great upset story, a great Cinderella story with sports?
Kinda, but it's like that's obviously it's all media driven. I think that if the Packers were to do that, they're a little bit different because they did it last year in Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
and for them to do that two back-to-back years against the AFC, the NFC East would be very funny, number one. But it would also kind of show that okay, this is a team that no matter what happens in the regular season, they're always going to be dangerous. And that I think also raises the profile of Jordan Love as well. And you assume Jalen Hurts is going to play. We don't really know yet.
I'm assuming I'm not going to play doctor, so I'm just until they tell me he's out, I'm just going to go with he's there.
But I do think that the upset has been minimized to a degree. I think that if, for example, what me and you both feel has a pretty good chance. Neither one of us is saying it will happen, but we both feel that Denver's a live dog. And if
Mm-hmm.
they were to do that, I do think that them doing it would be minimized a little, just because it would probably be more of a Josh Allen choke narrative, which I don't think is fair because we're talking about one of the best defenses in the league, talking
Mm-hmm.
about a coach that's seemingly doing it again with a rookie quarterback who's playing at a really high level over the last few weeks. And if I'm saying that, it's
I was
real.
about to say, I'm like, y'all witnessing
So
history, man. Like I was
so
waiting to
um
see.
I do think that it's been minimized to some degree, but it's never going to be a universal thing. Whereas like we praise the upset and we don't give a lot of shit to the
Yeah.
team that was upset because there's more value in the story of you blew it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of that. Again, it just feels like there's some of these stories I feel like we're almost taking away some of those. Again, like I brought up Flacco, like that's a memory you have the rest of your life. Even if there's other great Ravens teams, other teams that win Super Bowls, like that year has it's special because it came from this underdog type of story. Um, we'll go to the Ravens here. Are you worried about at all round three versus Pittsburgh? Would you have preferred it to be a team less familiar with Baltimore, or are you actually happy that it's a team they are theoretically the most familiar with in the playoffs?
There's some fan anxiety that comes with playing the Steelers, of course, because they're the Steelers and weird things always tend to happen when the Ravens play the Steelers. But if I'm just looking at it from say I'm not a fan of either team and I just look and I say, okay, the Steelers have played like shit the last few weeks. The offense hasn't been what it was over the prior 2 months, essentially. They they aren't getting much contributions on that side of the ball. The defense is still playing really well, but it can be gotten. We just seen it get lit up in Kansas City against an offense that hasn't been explosive all year.
Mm-hmm.
So we seen it 4 or 5 days before that when they played the Ravens and they got ran all over. So it the Ravens should have won this game. Not having Zay Flowers is not ideal, but you have to coach around that. It's the playoffs. There is no next week. You have to throw everything that you have at this game because you're down. You're down your number one wide receiver, statistically at least. You're down. You're down another explosive player. So you have to go into this with what you have, and what you have is what a lot of teams will kill for.
Hmm.
Rashad Bateman, who has 9 touchdowns, who averages 18 yards a catch. Mark Andrews, who has gotten into the end zone essentially every week since November. Um, a Isaiah Likely, who would be a number one tight end on a lot of other teams. So you have to go into this with what you have, and what you have is a really good cover, and that's not to mention the 1,900 yard, 16 touchdown running back that you have, along with the 45 plus touchdown, um, only four interception, 900 yard rushing quarterback. So it's like you're the better team, you're
It's
the more
insane.
talented team. You should win this game. It's just and like I said, when they played the Steelers in Pittsburgh, like I said, when they played them a few weeks ago, if the Ravens play clean, it won't be a close game. Minimize the penalties, don't turn the ball over, things like that. If they play Pittsburgh clean, they'll win the game by multiple scores. But that is just no guarantee that they'll do that.
No, that was um I do want to ask this. So I'm over the whole like this is the only non-playoff team we're talking about. I think the Cincinnati narrative got really annoying the last few weeks of like,
Hmm.
oh, this is like the scariest team. This is the scariest team. You can't justify being the scariest team. Yeah. Could you say on any given day, yes, could Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins go out there and go crazy? 1,000%. But the idea that this was the team, like if y'all were so scary, then this shouldn't take like September shouldn't be a 0 win or 1 win month. Like you losing to Jacoby Brissett and now Gerard Mayo, who just got fired earlier. Like I understand we love offense, but was there ever, I guess, in your mind, like was that narrative ever justified of Cincinnati being quote unquote scary? And even if they had made it, would you have felt nervous if the Ravens had to play the Bengals in the second round?
Um, well, for them to match up with the Bengals, it would have been conference championship if that came to be.
Yeah, because
I
they would have
do
got because they would have the
the
Chiefs in the
seventh.
second round. Yeah.
I do think that they would have been a threat. To what extent? I don't know. It's hard to say. Like they can score on anybody, but they can be scored on too. Like the defense is bad. It's just bad. It's not good. And T. Higgins is bad on the ankle thing, so that kind of makes them less explosive. You don't really know Chase Brown's situation, and they really could not run the ball without him. So it's essentially Joe Burrow. Mike Gesicki was playing some ball, and Jamar Chase. It's like you can manage around that. Would
Mm-hmm.
they have given Buffalo problems? Absolutely. Um, would they have given the Chiefs problems? Sure, but I mean, the Chiefs probably would have won that game though. It's like Joe Burrow gets a lot of credit for almost beating the Chiefs. Like he beat them,
That's
and then he gets a lot of credit for almost doing it. And it's just like, okay, bro, whatever. Like
yeah.
like
No,
sure.
1,000%. Like,
Like sure. Like sure. I wouldn't have worried about the Ravens facing them because it would have been a situation where the Ravens would have gotten them at home again, conference championship, and just a much better defense than the Bengals played those first two games. I like clearly a much better, just a better team, let alone defense, just a better team overall. So, but they could have made some noise maybe, but like they punted a fucking month, and then
that's
they semi punted October. They got going in November, and it's just like you don't get rewarded for losing, like you just don't,
mhm.
and you can't decide to finally play some real football, or I don't even say play real football, just you don't get rewarded for having things bounce in your favor. Because it's not as if anything changed for that team from September to December. Some metrics may look a little bit different for the defense, but they played lesser teams as well. So it's like the Cincinnati thing is stupid, but people want to grasp on anything because they're just tired of the Chiefs winning all the time, which is fair.
No, trust me, I am. I am. We're gonna get to the Chiefs though here in a second. So I do want to ask. Oh, I just pulled it up. All right. So I think the least interesting game right now, it just off face value, I'm gonna say is Chargers Texans.
Hmm.
Which is unfortunate, but like if you've seen a Jim Harbaugh coach team, it's not super exciting, even with Justin Herbert at quarterback. And I love CJ. I like what the Texans do. There's just something that just feels off about them right now. Um, I want to go to, I think, the game that's going to end up being the most interesting, and that's Vikings Rams. Now, I coming into the game, Minnesota Detroit, I felt like a lot of people started to sway a little too hard towards Minnesota, but they were like, "Oh, look, they've
I'm
got the
probably one of those
momentum." And
people. I'm probably
what?
one of those people. I said I'm probably one of those people.
Yeah, and I was like, the Lions. It felt good to me because I'm big on like, and the NFL doesn't have this issue, but like the regular season needs to matter. And the Lions were clearly from start to finish the best team in the NFC, and so I am glad they got the 1 seed. But Vikings Rams, this is where stuff goes from. This is how quick life gets on you, right? A week ago, there was talks about, is someone paying Sam Darnold $50 million a season? Sam doesn't look good last night. And if he goes to the Rams, and I don't want to use the word exposed, but let's say plays old school Sam Darnold-ish, right? So not a good
Hmm.
playoff game. They don't score a lot of points. And especially if like Jefferson, some of the receivers are fresh on the sideline clearly, and their season's over. So you're 14-2, and then boom, you're out. Don't win another game out of the playoffs after 1 week. If you're the Vikings, who do you have in this game? Because we both like the Rams a lot coming into this season. And
Yeah.
then the Vikings we did like, but we were retracted when JJ got hurt. So who do you like in this game? And if Sam Darnold does put up a quote unquote old Sam Darnold or a stinker of a game, if you're Minnesota, what do you do with him?
I haven't really thought about it. I'll be just because like I was probably more interested to see how the Rams would look against the Lions in the third matchup, but um I would I would probably still pick the Vikings just because I don't really know what the Rams do on the back end against those receivers. I think that
Mm-hmm.
if they can get pressure, it gets a little bit tricky, but I don't know if they'll be able to really do that in a way that helps them win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I would probably still lean Vikings, but of course, like the Rams are going to be they're live as anybody. Like it'll it'll be it'll be a close game, I think. I don't think it's a blowout either way. And they can score with the Vikings, but I just don't they're probably more prone to make them the mistakes. And that
Mm-hmm.
sounds kind of funny to say considering the Sam
Yeah,
Darnold's the quarterback, but
that's
the Rams don't really have any room for they don't have a margin for error that's like why. It's very small. The Vikings bring in a defense that can get stops. They bring in playmakers. The Rams have to essentially score every time they got the ball.
yeah, yeah. We'll go to the other game. We talk about Denver being a live dog. We'll go to the other game with the rookie quarterback, which shout out, I heard twice, and this is just one of those things of like, and this is the NFL, so there's literally no excuse. I heard two prominent people on sports shows, one on CBS and one on Fox Sports, who asked like almost out loud and were like, yeah, man, I think it's the first time we're gonna have two rookie quarterbacks ever make the playoffs. And I'm like, it was insane to me on the CBS one because I'm like, you're on the set with Matt Ryan. Like you
It's
literally
very
want,
funny.
like you. Well, I wonder when the last two rookie quarterbacks made the play. Like you sit anyway. Other game with the rookie quarterback obviously is Jaden Daniels, the Commanders versus the Buccaneers.
Not only that, fucking RG3 and Andrew Luck made the playoffs.
It's like it's like this is us growing up. That was a legitimate question. Rookie quarterback was way different back in 2009, 2010.